it. And if you are just joining the link randomly, maybe you did not sign up and you're just here because you see the wonderful title, I just want to let you know that you're in the right place. You want to study abroad and you put in your request to be here and you're here, and we're happy to see you. This evening's event is all about students like you who are interested in studying abroad. I currently study in Jamaica, but all about scholarships. For those who know, we try our very best to connect young people with opportunities to help them elevate themselves. And we've gotten a lot of requests from you guys that you want to hear more about international opportunities. And so this is our answer to that appeal, to that request. So thank you so much for joining us. Today we have students from Jamaica who are studying in the United States of America, who are studying in Cuba, who are studying in China, and are studying in Canada. And they took the time out of their wonderful day to be here with you. So I hope you're ready to ask questions. I hope you're ready to write down things, and I hope you're listening. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, if at any point in time you fall off and you can't come back on the meeting, I would encourage you to hop over to our Instagram page. Hop over to our YouTube page and watch the stream there. We are just about ready to jump into what we are about to do. And I see that all our participants are here so far. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, before we start, let me just see you drop the flag of the country that you want to go to study. Is it USA? Is it China? Is it Cuba? Perhaps it's a country that we haven't brought yet. Maybe next year, maybe later in the summer. Just drop that flag. Okay, we see a Canadian flag, a Chinese flag. Oh, so just Canada and China? China again. Okay, we're all putting them in the chat, and that's wonderful. And we're about to start, so we'll move right into the slide. Oh, Korea, South Korea, nice. So before we start, I just want to tell you a little bit about all about scholarships, the ones who have brought you here today. So a little history. So in 2020, I'm seeing the struggles faced by my peers when applying for scholarships during the pandemic. Myself, Kenisha Henry, and Delmar Squire launched the All About Scholarships initiative with the youth to provide advice to our newly formed WhatsApp group. So we started on WhatsApp and we expanded to a myriad of other social media platforms. And that's why we're here today. We know of scholarship recipients and we know of experts who have benefited from a lot of opportunities, and we are living our truth and bringing this mandate to you guys. So thank you so much for joining. And next slide. And so this year will mark 2 years since we have been an official initiative. Delmar, could you go to the next slide, please? I guess we're having a bit of technical difficulties. So that's for 2 years. And forward to the agenda. Okay, so I already gave you our opening remarks, and you've heard about what All About Scholarships is, and you've heard about our co-founders. So let's jump right into it. So our first presenter is from the United States of America, and then we'll have our presenter from Canada. Our first presenter is having a bit of technical difficulties, I assume. Right here. So our first presenter is Miss Chelsea Wright. She recently graduated with honors from Kettering University with a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and statistics. She's also the co-founder of Young and Thriving. She's actually coming from a Young and Thriving event right now, a company dedicated to helping students manage their time, prioritize their health, and create good financial habits, all while excelling in the classroom. In her spare time, she creates content on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, which zones in on balanced living and managing finances. and finding scholarships, of course, as a Jamaican national living abroad. So she has a YouTube channel. I've subscribed to her YouTube channel, and I would definitely recommend that you do the same. Chelsea is excited to continue sharing her journey and creating finance content as she transitions to the working world and starts her career in tech. Ladies and gentlemen, future scholars, welcome Miss Chelsea.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Kanisha, just let me know if you can hear me well. And everything is fine. Just a quick thing, okay, in the chat, so everybody can hear me well. Okay. All right, cool. So I want this to be kind of like a conversation. I'm going to go through my entire process, the thought process, and how I even found out about like college in the US in the first place. So I'm going to be asking questions. So I'm really dependent on you guys to, you can unmute your mic if you want, or just put the questions or answers in the chat, and we will get going. So as Kanisha mentioned, my name is Chelsea Wright. I just graduated from Kettering with a bachelor's in industrial engineering. And all of that lovely stuff, right? I have a full-time offer. I'm going to be starting my job in September in, Washington, a new state, and I'll be ultimately staying here in the US. But I didn't really see this as a part of my, future while growing up. It wasn't until maybe sixth form where I kind of realized that like it was a possibility for me to study like abroad, for college. And the reason why I chose to study abroad or in the US was because there were two things presented to me. It was either I went to UE to study either law or medicine. And for me, I had an interest in both. I was more tilted towards the science side because that was kind of like where my strong suits were. And I wasn't that passionate about medicine or law. So it's like, okay, what other things are out there? I was talking a lot to my guidance counselor at the time because I was always going to my guidance counselor. One, it was to find out how I could fund my high school education, because from them time, them know so many about the money. So I was always trying to fund and find out about different opportunities. And she saw that. So she helped with that as well. Oh, I went to Campion. So I went to Campion. Ready strong. Woo! I have on my school ring of my school. Anyway, so yeah, from them time there, I look for opportunities. So all right, so we're at my guidance council now, and I, started to like play around with the idea of maybe going to school abroad. And she heard of a program called the AIM program. And it was for students who were interested in STEM or engineering, or didn't even know what they wanted to do, but wanted to investigate science of some sort. And she was like, I think you'd be a good fit for this program. I never really had the money. And I was someone that would have, made the most of the program. So it's called the Academically Interested Minds Program. And it was at Kettering University in Michigan. So I applied to the program with her help, went through the interview process, and I got into the program. And there it was in 6B, or what you guys call, I think is grade 12. So the lower six was when I did that program that summer before I came into upper six, and did the program for 5 weeks, fully all expenses paid program. They funded the visa process and everything for me to get to go. All I had to do was just get accepted. So I got accepted, went to the program, did calculus for the first time, chemistry, physics, engineering, rocketry. I don't remember what other classes I did, but did all of those classes and came about 13th in the program and received a scholarship to come back So this is where the real work began, because I received a partial scholarship to come back. And I still had to do my SATs. So SATs are like tests that you have to do to kind of like place you into programs or colleges in the US, the SATs or the ACTs, but I didn't even know about the ACTs at this time. So I was just kind of following what other Jamaicans who had come into the program knew, and kind of like following what they told me to do. So they're like, you go back home to Jamaica, you take the SATs, you get additional scholarships to come, and then you pay the rest of your tuition by getting other scholarships and co-op earnings. So my university is a co-op university. And what that means is that you go to school for a set amount of semesters or term, as we refer to it as, and then you work for co-op for the following term. So that is how I would go through school. And on those work terms, I would be earning money to help to pay for my next school term. So let's pause there. Are you guys like getting what I'm saying? So this was like the plan for me I already had kind of like a plan as to how I was going to study and kind of like fund my degree from jump, because I knew my parents didn't have it and I didn't have a full ride. Is this making sense? You guys can just type Y or yes in the chat. Okay, what is the name of the program? It's called Academically Interested Minds. Okay, cool. You guys are understanding. All right, so that's where we are in the program. So co-op, so that's how I'd be able to pay for my tuition. So I knew that I didn't get a full ride, but I wasn't going to depend on just scholarships or just a GoFundMe page or just my parents' money, even though we know them never have none, you know? I kind of had even though this wasn't how it manifested, I had like a way that was proven by other people who did it before me of how I was going to pay for my tuition. So I was just like, that's what I'm going to do. So I came back in upper six, did the SATs, got the score to get the extra scholarship. I already had gotten the scholarship from the program because I placed in like the top 20. And you know, that was the application. That was like what I had set my sights on. So with regards to applying to different universities, I did apply to different universities. To be completely honest, I got accepted to University of Miami and Drexel and all those other universities, but money never did it. The money never talk. So I wasn't even paying any attention to those. I didn't, however, have to pay for the application to those universities because I had a good relationship with my guidance counselor. And if your guidance counselors know you have like economical hardship, you can't afford it, you're the PAMPAP program, then they will give you the waivers, the fee waivers, to be able to use the common application to then apply for those schools free of charge. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? So let me repeat that. So if you have economical hardship, your guidance counselor, and you're able to prove that you have economical hardship, your guidance counselor should be able to provide you with a fee waiver on the common application for you to apply to those schools for free. Write that down. Okay. So that's going to open up your options because you're able to apply to more schools and you don't have to pay the money to apply to them. So there's the thing. And the Kettering University, which is the university I went to, was on that common application. So I didn't even need to pay anything extra to apply because they were on the common application. So that's that, right? So applied, no. So let's fast forward. So I applied, got the fee waiver. In the meantime, I'm doing my SATs. And then I get in. Woo, I get in. But I low-key already knew I was going to get in because I did the program and I got the scholarship, right? But I got the official acceptance letter. And now it was time for the immigration process, yay, which was one of like the hardest processes, I would say. And not because it was hard to fill out or anything, but it was hard mentally because a part of the process is you, and I think the hardest part of the process is you showing financially that you can afford your tuition. Not even the interview, because you have to have like the interview at the embassy. So before you even get to the interview phase, you need to have your documents. And one of the documents is called the affidavit of support. And that affidavit of support is a document where you sign and show proof in your bank account that, hey, I have the money to support myself, or your parents in this case, or some family member, somebody has the money. If you didn't get a full ride to college, which I didn't, they have the money to make up the rest of that tuition. To make it simple, say my tuition was $10,000 and I only got a $4,000 scholarship from the school. I still had to show in my bank account that for the first year, this is where the rest of the tuition is going to come from. Is that making sense, guys? So I'm going to pause for a minute. That makes sense? So you see the issue here, right? You see the issue here, guys? So if me now have a full ride scholarship and we now have the money because I'm waiting till I go to school to work to pay it as I go through, oh my gosh, she'll say I have the money when we have it. So that was the issue at hand, right? And I remember scrambling around with my parents because they saw my drive and them never have it because we don't earn in US dollars. Scrambling around trying to find who can put this money where, who can put this money here into one account to show that we have the money. Family members fell through, and we ended up getting like the statements to show from like a family friend. So we really had to scramble around to make it happen. So we finally have someone show their bank account and sign the waiver saying, okay, this is the money that Chelsea has to support her for her first year, right? This is the money she has. So I gathered all my documents from Kettering that they sent to me, my passport, the money to apply and everything, and went to the embassy, and I got through on the first try. Thank God. So that was what the interview process was like. So for me, the hardest part was actually finding the person or finding people to like come together to show that I had the money because I didn't get a full ride. Is that making sense? I'm going to ask you, so just get ready to type your yes, no, and like have your questions in the meantime. So that's where we're at the process. Cool. All right. It's making sense. All right. So the immigration process now, after that's started and completed, my visa is issued. And yep, a guarantor basically. Yeah, came on. It's like a guarantor to show like an actual bank statement. Okay, so knowing you really never have the money, how you got it to pay the school. We're heading to that. Just hold on. So it's October now, and my school started in October, and I went in to school October, and I had received an additional scholarship from the school to cover that first semester, right? So that's how that semester was covered, because, or I guess mentors from the program, the AIM program I told you about, they told us that, okay, we'll help you out for your freshman year, and whatever money you need, we'll help you out for the first year. But you see, after that first year, you're on your own. And to be completely honest, guys, it wasn't even the first year, it was the first semester, because by the second semester after I came from my work term, I kind of had to struggle to work a couple jobs on campus to actually find and put together the funds to pay my tuition. So that was how my freshman year was. So are you guys following? So to answer your question, Nilmar, that's how that worked. So a mixture of work on campus jobs and extra scholarships did that first tuition payment. So where we are now. So freshman year, first semester done. And as an international student, I had to go to school for 6 months straight before I could start working. So I was ready to make some money now, right? Just finished school, my first school semester. And I'm ready to go off to work term now. Went off the work term and the money wasn't adding up, y'all. The money that they said I was supposed to be making, by the time I leave, pay my rent for the next semester to live somewhere and exist, I barely had any money left back. I had to struggle again to kind of like survive. I had up at one point had to have like 3 on-campus jobs. So I really knew that if I wanted to go through school and do it debt-free, I had to tap into some scholarships. So that's where like my love for scholarships came from. It wasn't necessarily because it wasn't a choice. Let me put it like that. It wasn't like, oh, I think scholarships would be nice. It was a necessity. There's a necessity is the mother of invention. True, because it was do or die. And I didn't want to go back home. So I had to find the money. And that's where that love for it came from. I spent like all of my I had to wait, Hopel says, how do you juggle 3 on-campus jobs to make a decent sum, seeing that there is a 20-hour limit? Exactly, only 20 hours a week. And there are limited on-campus jobs as well. So maybe you can only get a 4-hour at one place, then a next 4 hours another place, then a 5 hours at another place. No on-campus job is going to allow you to just work 20 hours straight because they're trying to split it between their domestic students that are there that have to have federal work study as well, and then you as an international student. So that's how the 3 came about. There is a 20-hour limit. So and I think I was making like $9 an hour or something crazy. So you could see it was only food and payment towards like rent that could be done from that. So I had to get creative. So that's where my love and need for scholarships came from. Because at that point, I know it's worse now, $1 US was like 130 something Jamaican dollars. I remember one time my mother said she had sent me $50 and it was like almost 10 grand. And I'm like, never mind. You don't have to do it again, me. You're all right. And that's when I realized that it was really on me. $725 is what some schools are giving. I know. Yeah. And my school was one of the better ones. So that's why I'm saying that you kind of really have to think through and put your all into scholarships or put a lot of your focus and dedication into finding scholarships, because that's really one of the main ways you're going to fund your education. Because as an international student, you can't survive off that and pay tuition working 20 hours a week. It's ridiculous. So to the $1 million question now, where do students find scholarships? How to search for scholarships, and are there any specific to Jamaicans? So 2 parts. There are a lot of places that you can find scholarships, right? The more you search, the more you'll find, but the quality of scholarships you'll find is dependent on who you are and what I like to call your scholarship profile. Are you guys getting this? So, for example, I use myself as an example. I am a Black international woman who is in STEM, studying industrial engineering and statistics at a predominantly white institution in Michigan. So I just listed 7 key things about me that I can use to search for scholarships. Another, I guess, great way to search, and I think the best way to get scholarships is to look at professional organizations related to your major. So now, using myself as an example, and I'll use some other people as an example, as well as examples as well. I'm an engineer. There were different organizations, professional organizations related to the major that I was studying. You had the National Society of Black Engineers, the Institute of Industrial Engineers, Society of Women Engineers. So these were organizations established to ensure that young people get into these fields. So to search for scholarships, what I implore you to do is look for what are the parallels, what kind of organizations exist like that for your discipline, for your degree, for your major. Can somebody like drop their major in the chat, or like the degree that they're working towards or hope to work towards? Anybody? Medicine, biology, medicine, business, admin, culinary arts, actuarial science, right? For example, let's use actuarial science, right? In the US, that's like a huge major or discipline, and it's hard. So they want to get young people to go into that field. So the more specific you are and the more you demonstrate that interest, the more attractive you look to people or those organizations, because they want people who are dedicated to their field. They want people to keep the industry going strong. So see if there are any honor societies related to your discipline or major, and professional organizations that are related to your discipline or major, especially if you are, a minority, which I think most of us are. So I'm a woman who's studying engineering. I'm a minority because I'm a woman in STEM. And then I'm Black. So I was able to tap into the Society of Women Engineers and the National Society of Black Engineers. So are you getting what I'm saying? So see where those intersections are and see how best like they fit you and what groups you fall into for that. So you could look up blacks in accounting or Jamaican Association for Accounting and kind of like reach out if any of those exist, so that you can kind of like sell yourself, because hey, you're an accounting student, for example, Jermaine, who's studying accounting. So that's just how you can apply it to your situation, wherever you are, because these skills do work whether or not you're in the US, Canada, anywhere. And they have worked for me studying in the US. So that's how you can get scholarships. With regards to any specific to Jamaicans, I have seen popping up lately that there are different like alumni groups and like diasporic groups where Jamaicans who have lived abroad or traveled abroad, they will form like their own organizations and give scholarships. So for example, if your school is in Atlanta, there is I think a Jamaica Atlanta Association. There might be one in New York, there might be one in Miami or somewhere in Florida. So think of like the places, excuse me, where Jamaicans like congregate. So, like those key places are like Florida, New York, Georgia, Atlanta. So just like think of like places like that and see if any exist in the place that you're trying to go to study to the US. Ooh, especially your high school, like my high school, Calabar, Atlanta chapter, and Florida. And that's a great thing. So see if you have like an alumni association from your high school. That's a very, very good point, Elmar. Very, very good point. So now I want to transition like to the softer side and talk about my experience. So what was life like as a Jamaican in the US? Coming up first, it was a huge culture shock. The food was disgusting, especially at the cafeteria. It was really cold because I was in Michigan. and I hadn't seen snow for the first time. And I didn't even, it was my first time wearing that much clothes. And I reflected and I said, wow, people really wear clothes to stay warm. I had always seen coats and fur and boots on TV, but I just thought it was for style. Me swear things are style, but it was for actual like functionality, and people like you have to dress warm. So that was a huge culture shock. Another culture shock was seeing so many white people for the first time. I knew when I went to Campion, there were lots of white people, but not half as much as what I saw here. And like adjusting to like the party culture and the drinking culture, it was a lot of adjusting. But I kind of just stayed true to like myself and gravitated towards people who held my like same values as well. And there was a huge Jamaican like alumni and Jamaican students came to my school as well, which made it very, very, not very easy, but better for the transition for me. So people, in terms of like racially, I know people want to know like, oh, have you experienced racism or how was that? And honestly, I would say thankfully, I hadn't experienced any blatant racism. I have experienced some sort of microaggressions when I do realize it. Like if you enter a room and like people kind of like leave, take their time and leave, or people assume that you're someone else, or you're not like a student, or people don't want to like join your groups as well. So things like that I've definitely experienced. But in terms of like blatant racism, there have been incidents, but I personally haven't experienced any. But I also must mention too is the fact that I'm also light skinned. So I'm not a darker skinned Jamaica. So that's some sort of privilege that I have to also keep in mind. Oh, excuse me. Like when I talk about my experience as well. So it's not like I am darker skinned. So maybe if I was darker skinned, the incidents would have been more. I don't know. But I'm just speaking from like what I experienced as well. So I'd rate that experience maybe 5 out of 10. Overall, other than that type of experience, I don't think it affected my ability to make the most out of my college experience. I was still able to become student government president at my campus. I was still able to do well in class. I didn't let that stop me from starting study groups and being a part of study groups. I just knew I needed an ally in those groups. So to make sure that when I said something, somebody didn't repeat it and say, oh, here's this idea I just thought of, just to make sure I had like friends like that in those groups as well. So I was still able to get really good grades. I was still able to study abroad and go to like different countries to study and travel through Europe. So I still think that even though that racial aspect was there and there were things that were put in my path to like, destroy me or deter me from doing certain things, I kind of like pushed past it and I was able to do that anyway. And I'm saying this to say that you can do it too. So as I wrap up and before I ask if anyone has any questions, one thing I think I wish I knew during the application process was that it wasn't going to be, excuse me, as like streamlined, or progress wasn't going to look like a straight line. So there were some parts of the process where I felt like I was just taking 30 step backs because I couldn't find the guarantor, or I couldn't find the money to pay for the visa, or I like didn't get the SAT score that I wanted. Like progress doesn't look like a straight line. And that's something I had to come to terms with. And it really caused me a lot of anxiety, not understanding that. Secondly, about the visa application process, that it was okay to ask for help. Like luckily, excuse me, there are a lot of Jamaicans that came through the program. And I didn't ask for help until like maybe the last couple of weeks or the last couple of months. And I realized I should have just asked for help earlier. It would have been a much smoother process. Maybe I wouldn't have had to stress out myself so far to ask and like search for a guarantor. Maybe one of them could have helped, you know. So I realized that asking for help. So if any of you guys are going through this process and need some more clarity or information or have questions, ask for help. I'm here as a resource. Ask the questions, ask for help. In terms of the transition from Jamaica to the US, one thing I wish I realized sooner was that there is opportunity costs for everything. So picture this. I am here in the US, right? It is 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which probably is like 10 degrees Celsius or 9 degrees Celsius. Cool in other terms. And I'm on Instagram looking, Snapchat looking, and you just see a friend them a galavant and their party and they're having the grandest time. And I used to have like FOMO and I used to feel so like sad. I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing out on a lot. And I'm missing out on like, I have a sister, I have a baby sister. Well, she's not a baby anymore. And I'm like, I'm missing out on all of these life moments and like my friends and my culture and the food. And I just had to think and reflect and ask myself, like, what is more important? Those say experiences or getting my degree and getting a job here and then being able to help my family and maybe even get my sister here, you know? So I kind of had to realize that while I had that fear of missing out and while, you know, I couldn't do those things, there was something much greater that I came here to achieve. So that was something that I wish I learned earlier. And that would have saved me if I really kind of like understood that earlier. That would have saved me a lot of just like internal anguish and misery because I felt like I was missing out because the opportunity cost of, you know, missing a party versus studying here and, you know, getting an internship at Microsoft, which I was able to do. I wouldn't have been able to get that if I was going to school in Jamaica the way I wanted to get it. It would have been way harder for me to get an internship at Microsoft if I was back at home. So, you know, weigh those options. So I think I'll wrap it up there. Kenisha, sorry if I went over time. I want to say that I have my YouTube. My YouTube will be sent in the chat. It's Chelsea K. Wright on YouTube, Chelsea K. Wright on TikTok, Chelsea K. Wright on Instagram. Follow me for scholarship content. Jermaine has a question, and you can send your questions to the chat or ask them now. Okay, you can unmute, Jermaine.
So I'm a JC student and I've applied for multiple scholarships, multiple universities overseas, and of course UNN UTech just for the options. But I'm prioritizing overseas. I've got scholarships from the universities, but it's not sufficient enough. So right now I'm trying to, get in touch with other, other resources or other sites are trying to find other scholarships. So I'm just asking you, how do I maybe go about, because it's very difficult to find because they're not really offering right now. I don't know if it's finished or it's only just for you and you take right now.
Right, exactly. So I have a few questions, Jermaine, and maybe we can like talk on Instagram or something. But what do you want to study? What schools are you looking at? And when do you plan to start going to college?
Okay. It would be the accounting, of course.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just waiting on another university. So it would be University of Tampa, which is in Florida, Barry University in Miami, and St. John's University in New York. Those are the three that I'm right now. And I plan to study, it would be like late August, or yeah, it would be like
Okay.
that time.
So coming up soon.
Yeah,
And what is the tuition? If you don't ask me, if you don't mind me asking, and like about how much aid are they giving you? Is the aid or scholarships over 50% or is it under 50% per year?
it's under 50%. Under 50%.
Way under
So
50%. Personally, what I would say is, and it's maybe hard, request more aid. So email them and ask them for some more aid, or take a gap year and try to apply for some different schools that would widen your chance or widen the chance of you getting like a package that has more aid. In terms of scholarships, if you're not open to those options, in terms of scholarships, I would say start looking into, like, as I said, professional organizations like overseas. So in Miami, you said Miami, so you said Florida or Tampa. So in
yeah.
Tampa,
Mhm.
look for Jamaicans in Tampa if there's a group there, or look for people in the area, because quite frankly, none if any companies or organizations in Jamaica is going to sponsor you, based off my experience, to study abroad, because they're trying to keep you here, so they're not gonna they're not
Yeah.
gonna sponsor you to go abroad, so you're going to have to turn your focus to where you're applying to, so like around that area. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
you're
I mean, what
welcome.
you can send IGs, we could talk.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and yeah, Kenisha send it into the chat. It's Chelsea K, right? And then we can go from there. All right, did anyone? Okay, Gabrielle had a question, so you can unmute.
Hello, good afternoon. I understand.
Oh, I'm not hearing you well, Gabrielle. I think it's like maybe a fan or something.
Sorry, it's windy.
Oh,
So I was saying that I understand what Jeremy is saying, because at this point, I'm not sure. I'm still wondering. I'm still pondering, but I'm not necessarily sure because I've applied to schools. I found favor in I found favor at a university, Albion College in Michigan. Um, I've got like 63% financial aid from them.
mm-hmm.
Because the only thing that's in my way is finding the funds to like show, to go to the embassy and everything.
Right. Wait, stick up
But
in. Stick up in. You say it's what, 63% or so? How would you pay for like how would you pay for the rest? Or you're just planning to just go with scholarships?
I plan to go with scholarship because I've applied. So I've gotten one from an actuarial organization. Actuarial
Nice.
organization
Okay, good. Nice.
just enough for the rest. So it's like I'm not, because I should be there in a month's time. So like
Mm,
I'm definitely not sure what to do, but in terms of like what you said, I will look into it more. But I'm mostly looking at you right now. So
when are you said a month's time, so like August. And you said it's in Michigan.
yeah,
So you're just trying to find a guarantor. Maybe DM me on Instagram. I might be able to send somebody your way. Or like the first thought I have is to like reach out to like somebody, like a counselor, somebody in a area, member of parliament, one of them people there. That's like the first thing. But you can send me a message and we can talk about it more from there.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. But congrats though. Congrats to you. So Gabrielle and Jermaine, congrats on your acceptance is a big deal. Okay.
So, hi everyone. I
Wait,
received.
who is speaking? Wait, I can't see you. Wait, hold on. Who's speaking?
I'm Jessica.
All right, hi Jessica. Okay, go ahead.
I received a full scholarship from a Jamaican company last year to study in Russia.
Ooh.
It is fully paid tuition, stipend, and accommodations, right? However, because of the invasion, I am not sure that I want to go anymore. But I feel stuck
Yeah.
in getting the company to tell them that I don't want the scholarship because I don't have the money to actually fund my tuition at another school. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts on this. My second choice would have been UTech because I'm trying to study chemical engineering, and that is not offered in UE at Mona. The only other place would be UE at St. Augustine, and I have applied to UE in St. Augustine. I have not gotten a response as yet as to the acceptance. So I was asking, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Wow, that's a loaded question. My first thought is like, talk to, excuse me, or have you spoken to other Jamaican students that are there? They are going to be your best, like advice givers right now, because they're the persons that are there, experiencing everything. So if you haven't, and maybe the company can help you to reach out to people who are already there in Russia, because that's a loaded question, girl. That is really loaded, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on that full scholarship opportunity. So I'd say reach out to people who are in Russia, and maybe if there's a Jamaican, maybe high commissioner or somebody in Russia that you can like reach out to, that would be helpful as well to help you make the decision. But I wouldn't kind of like turn my back towards it fully. That's my 2 cents. So yeah, I hope that helps you, Jessica. And you can reach out to me, as I've been telling everyone, on IG, and we can talk about it some more. As I can think now, I don't have any leads. I don't know anyone over that side that would be Jamaican or any of the Jamaican students. If you have any more questions, guys, you can reach out to me, privately. I'll be here for a couple more minutes. And you can reach out to me on IG. But thank you guys for having me, and thanks, Kenisha, for having me as well.
Thank you for making yourself available. We really appreciate the information that you have been sharing with us, Miss Wright. And as we already mentioned, if you have any further questions for her, you can scroll up in the chat and find the link straight to her YouTube page, or the link straight to her Instagram. It's Chelsea K. Wright, spelled just like how her name is spelled in this session, so you can find her and contact her. And I want to say the best way to find Jamaicans who are studying in certain countries is by using the internet. So for example, type in Jamaican students who are studying in Russia, and you probably find a Gleaner article that mentions their name. Then you take their name, you go on LinkedIn, you go on Instagram, and you find them. Or you can go on LinkedIn, go on Instagram, or network with the company that you mentioned that gave you the scholarship, and ask them if they could connect you with any students who they've given the scholarship in the past who are studying in Russia. So I'm giving that advice to everybody. If you want to study at South Korea, in the United Kingdom, and so forth, and we don't have anybody here today that's talking about the place that you want to go to, it's not too difficult for you to find those students. So yeah, that's my advice to you. And Facebook, yeah, the mom's app, the moms and dads app. But yeah, thank you so much, Chelsea. And we'll be moving right over to Hodasia. So we've just heard about how Chelsea financed her studies in the US, and now we'll be talking about how Hodasia Walters sponsors her sponsored, because she's finished now. She's a graduate, yes. Her degree in Canada. So Hadeja Walters is a support worker and research assistant who recently graduated from St. Thomas University, a liberal arts university located in Fredericton. Correct me if I pronounce that weird, Hadeja. New Brunswick. She graduated with an honors in sociology and a minor in psychology and gerontology with distinction. Hadeja advocates for accessible education opportunities for students across Jamaica to promote diversity and international experiences in post-secondary education. Her philosophy, education is our passport to the future, drives her advocacy for students to prepare to pursue post-secondary studies. She has also started a small immigration consultancy for high school students who wish to embark on a similar journey as she did. So if you want to study in Canada and you want to know more about this kind of stuff, Hadeja is here and she'll be talking about not only her journey, but her consultancy. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Hadeja Walters with an S.
Hello, everyone. I know my internet is not that good, so could I just get responses from everyone in the chat if you can hear me? Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. So my name is Hadeja Walters. I recently graduated from St. Thomas University in Fredericton, New Brunswick. It's a liberal arts institution situated in a really, well, it's not that remote, but it's remote. It's not like a Toronto. I graduated with an honors in sociology and I did a minor in psychology and gerontology, and I got distinction. Please excuse the puppies. I started my post-secondary education journey after sixth form. I went to the Queen's School. I started it in 2019. And even though my educational journey, post-secondary educational journey started in 2019, the preparation for it started way before. Well, I was a bit annoying and a bit, what would you say? I was very committed to this process because I did not want to go to UA. I applied for UA like similar to the speaker before. The only thing at UA that I could study or that interested me was law, and I didn't want that. So I applied to about 20 different universities across the world. And I got accepted to about 15, and with various funding packages. So firstly, my advice to everyone who wants to go on this journey or study in Canada, my advice is to start your research. Like, that's the first step in this process, because I started mine I was probably in fourth form, but no one needs to start that early. I was just obsessed. So I started in fourth form, and I did ACTs and SATs in lower sixth. Yeah, I wasted my money on that though because I went to Canada. I was really thinking about the US at first, but then Canada presented a better opportunity for me. So I went to Canada. So the first thing in this thing, as I said, is to research. Is it possible to get scholarships now in Canada? Yes, it's from the university. Well, my main source of scholarships were from the universities that I applied to. So as I was saying now, we do, oh, for this semester, All right. Well, I'll go into that later on, but for this semester, I believe it's a little too late for the semester coming up. That's September. Most scholarship applications, their deadlines are January, February of the year before you go in. And if you're going to like one of those top universities, it could be even the same time you submit your application, maybe the September, the October um before going in. So like last year, September, October for this year, September. Yeah. So the first thing is to go on the website of, well, figure out what you want to study. And you do a little Google search, well, a big Google search. The first thing to do is to go on Google and find those universities and see which one offer the programs that you want to study. So that's the first thing. And then you see the admissions requirement. Most of them in Canada accept, well, all of them accept CAPE, ones, twos, and threes. There are actually a few community colleges that you don't need CAPE for, just your CSEC and some work experience, and you can go through with it. The next most important thing is tuition. So the tuition was maybe the reason why I applied to so many universities, because I am a poor individual and my parents do not have it. So I needed to apply to all those universities to see which one would have given me the best funding package. And yeah. So with the tuition, you find which one is the cheapest, or the ones that have that coincide with what you want to study and the cheaper tuition. And afterwards, it's the cost of living in that area. So I have friends who went to Toronto, like University of Toronto, Ryerson University, Humber College, all those colleges, all those universities in those expensive areas. And if you're a poor girl like me or poor individual, I would advise you to try and seek out those universities in the cheaper cities. I was in Fredericton, there's Halifax, there's many of them. You can actually email me later on and I can go through with you guys, whoever is interested in pursuing their studies in Canada. Yeah, so I advise people to go to the cheaper countries. Oh, I'll be sending my email soon. So I advise people to go to those cheaper cities. Sorry. The cost of living, yes, for that city is very important to look into. And after that is the residence and meal plan, because the tuition is a big thing, but sometimes the meal plans and your residence can come up to way more than that. For me, I did not pay for my room because I got a scholarship for that. But the meal plan was still expensive. And let me tell you, compared to our yummy food, the food in Canada is subpar. A little fresh, very fresh. So you might be miserable if you're paying a lot of money and you're not eating anything in the meal hall. If you live on campus, I think most universities, they have it that it's mandatory to buy a meal plan. And going to school and cooking and everything is not always easy. So we understand. We understand why they say the meal plan is mandatory. Yeah, so well, this is all about funding. So tuition, researching your tuition, the tuition and the cost of living in the city or residence and meal plan, that is one of the first steps that you need to be doing. For me, as the university maniac that I was, I had a journal, something looking like this, and I would give each university that I was interested in, I'd give them about 3 pages. And I would write their admission processes, what I needed, to get into the school, and not only into the school, but also get their scholarships and bursaries. And I would go over them, make sure that I apply right way before the deadline, or, sufficient time. And yeah, just ensure that I research the university and the funding packages that they have, because that was the driving factor that made me apply to various universities. So I encourage journaling for this process. For me, going to St. Thomas University, as I said, I applied to so many universities. It wasn't that hard, because after applying to your first 2 or 3, you start to like tailor your application to each school, and it's basically the same thing. They have, your transcripts. What's happening? Oh, they have your transcripts, the letters that you write for the scholarship and everything, and so you just tailor it. That's what I did. And also I use the Common App. So for most of the universities in the US, I use the Common App. And similar to the speaker before, I did not pay for anything on that Common App, because I was very close with my guidance counselor. I knew I annoyed her because I would see her at least 3 times a week, if not every day, to go through the different things on it. And she gave me the waiver. So that was mostly for universities in the US. But when I applied to universities in Canada, there wasn't like a central application that you could use. So you had to do it like independently. And what I did, I called the admissions counselors and asked them for, what's that? Admissions. I asked them for a waiver so I didn't have to pay the admissions fee. And luckily I got them for all 5 universities in Canada that I applied to. So that is why I encourage everyone to start the process really, really early, because you get the time to build those connections with the admission counselors. You get the time to really know the university inside out. Because by the time I went to my university, I knew every building there. I knew every building, I knew everything about the university before even going there. And that's because I started early. I do have friends who didn't start as early as I did, and it went smooth for them as well. It's just that they didn't apply to as much universities as I did. And well, it worked out for everyone. So my funding package was, I got a full. You guys are distracting me. It's fine. Continue sending those. I'll answer those later on. I got a full bursary for room, so I didn't pay for the room. My scholarship was, I think it was half or a little bit over half the tuition. I got 1 scholarship and 1 bursary and the room. Even after getting that, I still struggled to pay for tuition. My parents helped me, really thankful for them. So after the half of the tuition from the scholarship, there was the other half, and I paid half of that half, and my parents paid the other half. They split that half, if you get what I'm saying. Basically, the how to be successful in funding your tuition is, as I said, 1, research, and also speaking to individuals at the school. So I would be at the financial services and speaking to them about how I can pay for my tuition. And well, I don't know if UE has this, but I know that my university and many other universities in Canada were very flexible with this. You could do a payment plan. So I would pay every month. I'll pay every month a portion of it for 8 months. And my university actually was very generous. They sometimes made me go into the summer. Not all universities do that. So I advise you to contact your universities, your potential universities. And as I said, on those 3 pages, on those 3 pages that you write for a university, ensure that the funding is in bold. Ensure that you have the numbers for the university. I remember buying plans. I remember buying a plan to call the admissions counselors. But you can do that with Text Now app, so you don't have to buy a plan for all those budgeting for all those who are budgeting. Yes. So as I said, most of my funding came from my parents, well, from the scholarship, from my parents, and working. This was another thing that attracted me to Canada, the fact that I could work as soon as I started classes. So in the Jamaican group, that was at my university, I was one of the first students who started working. I started university in September 2019, and I got my first job in October. And I was working for like the first few weeks. It was like 10 hours a week until it was 15. Actually, immigration says that you cannot work over 20 hours off campus. However, you can work any amount of hours you want on campus. And so I went all in for that. So I was working, I think there was a time I was working 35 hours while overloading one semester. So I was doing 15 hours on campus and 15 hours off campus and 20 hours on campus. And those were two. Yes, we love Canada. Come to Canada, guys. Yeah, so I was doing 15 hours off campus and 20 hours on campus, and those 20 hours were divided between 2 jobs. I was a research assistant. I was a research assistant, and then I was a research officer as well. And then I was doing some support work off campus for those 15 hours. Oh. So what I'm hearing is that in US, what I'm hearing is that in the US you have to wait about six months or so. No, I was working weekends, after school, reading week, Christmas. Oh, Christmas I worked so many hours because you don't have to work just 20 hours during breaks, scheduled breaks, reading week, Christmas, summer. I would work full. I could work over 40 hours. I could work even 60 hours if I wanted. But self-care is important, guys. So don't do that if you come to Canada. Yeah. So I had internships. I was a research assistant, as I stated. And there was this summer that I did some work at the government of New Brunswick. And I continued doing it somewhat into the school year. Another big, big, big part of my funding was I was a resident advisor. So my school gives half, I think it's half of the residents' meal plan and half of residents, like your room, to resident advisors. And as I stated, I had already had the room scholarship, and so what they did for me, they transferred that money that I would have gotten for the room, and they sent that over to my tuition. So that was pretty good. That was very good for me. There were times where I had to hide financial services because I was not making enough money to pay to keep up with my payment plan. But as I said, I was in a very good university, and they did not stop me from going to classes nor stop me from doing exams. And I think many universities in Canada do that as well. One of my advice to everyone here is, if you feel as if you cannot afford a university, because universities The tuition can be from about 15,000 to 30, 45. So as I said, do your research, go to the cheaper ones. All universities are equal. No, they're not. But do your research, go to the cheaper one. And yes, as I was saying, the universities are more expensive than colleges. So you could go to the college and do 2 years, do a diploma for 2 years, and could be significantly lower. I actually know a community college that their tuition is about 9,000, between 9,000 and 13,000, and you can do that. You can still work, you can still pay. They still offer scholarships and bursaries, and once you finish those 2 years, you can work for a while. You'll be in Canada working the Canadian dollars. You can work for a while, and then you can transfer those community college credits to a university, and you might end up in third year or so. It might make the process a little longer to achieving your goals, but you're taking your steps, you're doing what you can do. So the community college option is really great. Yeah. How did I get scholarships? As I said, I was a maniac. I wrote down almost all when I went to university, when I started university, I don't believe there was a university in Canada that I did not hear of. And it's almost the same for the US as well, because I was researching everything. When you're poor, you have to go to extreme lengths. What else? So getting into the university is actually the easier part. Doing the whole application process for the universities, that's the easier part. The hard part is the immigration, because you could get accepted to every university in Canada. The best ones, McGill, University of Toronto, UBC, that's the University of British Columbia. You could get accepted to all of those, and immigration would say, nope, not giving you. I don't want, masters, yes, that's a good one as well. And Canadian immigration may deny your application. And that is very, very, very sad, because I had a few friends that happened to. Luckily for me, I use my parents' pension. Yes, the commercials won't let you forget. That's true. So I use my parents. The most important part of getting that visa, that study visa, is funding. So I thank God for my parents. We are very poor, but they did what they had to do, and they pulled through. I was a lonely child. Well, I wasn't really immersed in my family, so I did not have outside family assistance. I didn't have family friends. I just had to use my parents' stuff, and thank God it was just enough to go through. And I got my visa. This is pre-COVID. I got my visa in 2 weeks after applying. Right now, I'm seeing that the processing times can stem from 2 months to 4 months. Oh, it's crazy right now. And I believe COVID is a thing of the I believe we're used to COVID now, so it shouldn't be like that, but maybe it's their excuse so that they can be slow. But yeah, so the hardest part of this process is actually getting the visa. So you need to show first you need to show the proof of acceptance, your acceptance letter. Then you need to show that you won't run off, that you're actually going to university. Yes, so maybe some ties to the country. I don't really like. Yes, wear your mask. Yes, so they want to see that you have enough money for not just your tuition, but also the cost of living. So what they want to see is that you have the tuition for the first year. And so if your university is like $10,000 a year, 15,000, just show that. It's always best to show way more. So you have to show the tuition that you have the money to pay the tuition, and $10,000, 10,000 Canadian dollars extra for living expenses for the year. So they estimate that living expenses in anywhere, which I disagree, would be for $10,000 for the year. Do you need SATs? No, but I did them anyways because I was looking for any university that would accept me and give me a great scholarship. So you don't need SATs to go to any university in Canada. They do accept it though. So if you believe that your SAT scores were really good, you can still send it to them. I did SAT and ACT. They accept those as well. But why spend the money when you can use CAPE? I did though. So with the proof of acceptance, you need your statement of purpose. So you write a little letter basically telling them that you want to come back to Canada. It's quite ironic because they need people in Canada. However, for this application, you need to show that you're going to go back to your country. So I guess that is it. If you want more information on the immigration process, you can email me and we can do a step-by-step process for you. I'm typing it in the thing right now. Give me a second. Yes, so I've placed my email that you guys can reach me at hwstudyingcanada@gmail.com. All right. I will answer all your questions, I promise. So as I said, I chose to study in Canada because St. Thomas University gave me the best scholarship, the best funding package. And the tuition in Canada is relatively cheaper than in the US and in the UK. I also went to Canada because of the ability to work as soon as I started classes. And one of the greatest perks of studying in Canada is that there are various immigration pathways to stay in Canada. So you don't need to get married to anyone. You don't need anyone to sponsor you or anything. You can, when you're finished your degree, you can get a postgraduate work permit and you can work yourself towards PR and ultimately citizenship without marriage and all those fangas dangas. So that was a big perk for me. Big perk. So I told you guys about the application process. The immigration process was the hardest part for me. Where do you guys look for scholarships? So as I said, what would you like me to repeat? Oh, postgraduate work permit. I'm currently on a postgraduate work permit. So if you studied, as I said, this would need a different session or you guys can email me. But basically, if you studied in Canada for over a year, I think it's actually 9 months. If you study in Canada for more than 9 months, you get a postgraduate work permit. It's an open work permit where you can work anywhere in Canada for any company, no restrictions. And you get it for the maximum is 3 years. And within those 3 years of working, you're basically building your permanent residency file. So you're showing that you would contribute good to the country and all those lovely stuff. Yes, gotta love Canada. Yeah, so that's almost, y'all are distracting me. But yeah, so the postgraduate work permits, it's a simple thing to get after you finish your degree, and that's why I encourage people to come to Canada. They want you here. Well, there. I'm actually in Jamaica right now. Where I got my scholarship from, I think the previous speaker said something about this. Basically, in Jamaica, they want you. They don't want brain drain. They don't want brain drain, so they would prefer, they would not give you scholarships to study overseas. So most of the scholarships that you're seeing, it's geared at students who are going to UA, UTech, and CU, and other post-secondary institutions. So you're basically on your own to find those scholarships. The best places to find those scholarships, as I said, is from the university. You're going to get those scholarships mostly from the university, like the big scholarships. As I said, my funding package was a little over half the tuition. My tuition was 17,000. My tuition was 17,000, and I got a little over half. I got bursaries. Also, even if you don't get a bursary in the first, while applying, the universities sometimes offer those bursaries yearly. So I would apply for a bursary every January or December, and that would be based on my grades, what I'm involved in at school. So that would be separate and apart from my scholarships. Basically, I would advise everyone to speak to their financial services of the university you want to go to, and also past students or Jamaicans who are already going to that university, to advise you on how they got their scholarship or what scholarship is available. That's if you don't want to go directly to the university. What else? There is this scholarship that I know that is directly geared towards Jamaicans. If you guys want to write this down, it's this organization called could have sworn I wrote that down. There it is. Jamaican Canadian Association. So they cater to students who are going to university in Toronto or Ontario. So that's a good place to look for for scholarships. A few of my friends, I actually have a friend who got a scholarship from her church. Like Seventh-day Adventists, it's a big community. I'll be wrapping up. Seventh-day Adventists, they're like a big community, so they have churches all over. So you can just be not too annoying, but be active in it. Ask people, talk to people, talk to the university, talk to past students, current students, and talk to me. I did not have a bad transition to Canada because I went there often before, and surprisingly, there were many Jamaicans are everywhere. I had Jamaicans in my city, and I was a little complacent with making friends just because I had so many Jamaicans. But my advice to everyone is to form relationships with people in the city, form relationship with other ethnic groups, because you learn a lot, you get a lot of help. Canada is a good place to be. People are very helpful there. The greatest shock there was the weather. The previous speaker went to Michigan, I think. That's nothing compared to Canada, nothing compared to where I was. It would be -30, negative almost 40 sometimes. I would slide on snow, ice. I'd slide on ice, but it's a great community anyways. Yeah, so my advice is to get connected to people, speak to people, and do your research. All right, to the questions now. I'm so sorry for neglecting you guys. I'm just gonna run through these a little quickly. So as I said, start a little early, maybe a year before. Getting scholarships for this summer. You can. There may be like some leftover scholarships for people who did not apply for them at the universities. So I'd advise you guys to speak to admissions counselors at that university. But as I said, they might be very limited right now. What if you want to pursue your master's there, even though you did your bachelor? Oh, that is perfectly fine. It's a seamless process to pursue your master's in Canada after doing your bachelor's in Jamaica, as long as you have those good grades, as long as it's from a reputable university or post-secondary education institution. And actually, they have more scholarships for students who are studying for their master's than bachelors. What about applying for the second year? Is it possible to get scholarships? So most of the scholarships are aimed at freshman, first year students. So I don't think that you'd get like the big scholarships for the second year, but there are bursaries, as I said, which are open to everyone, for those who want to transfer. And as I said, you can work. Working is a lot of, especially when you're doing full time. But once there is a will, there's a way. Once you have your drive. Do most university accept CSEC? Most university accept CAPE. Most of them. You would find community colleges accepting CSEC. Some universities accept CAPE if you have like a lot of work experience. If you apply under the adult experience programs. What if you want to transfer to a college in Canada? I think I mentioned, if you already started some part of it in Jamaica, you can still do it. As long as they recognize the courses that you did. You don't need SATs. Oh, what's it like in Canada as a Jamaican? Everyone is telling you, oh, I went to Ocho Rios, or they're trying to call some name that they don't really know. So that's a great thing. People love Jamaicans. We are warm, we're lovely. Everyone wants to be your friend. Actually, at my university, most of the big positions, well, then the first year that I went, they were held by Jamaicans. So everywhere we go, we basically supersede everyone. Oh, when I left to go to Canada, my whole family came. My mom, my dad, my little brother. Actually, my little brother is Canadian. And I got a study permit, and my application boosted their visitors visa. So you can learn more about that by emailing me. How did I apply for fee waivers? So on Common App, there's some Canadian universities on Common App. So you could do that thing with the guidance counselor where they apply for you. And the ones in Canada, the other ones in Canada, I basically just call the admissions counselors, run up my parents' phone bills, and ask them for it. Ask them if it was possible for that. Can you still use a common? Yes, you can still use a Common App application even though you finished sixth form, like it's for everyone. Although it would be a little hard to you're not really in school to come to the guidance counselor. So you'd have to like make your trip to your high school for the guidance counselor to help you. Oh, well, that is it. If you guys have any other questions, you can email me at hwstudyincanada@gmail.com and I will answer your questions. I'm also on Instagram, Hadeja Walters. And yeah, thanks for having me. I do hope that everyone decides to go to Canada because Canada needs people and it's a great place to be. They have many opportunities for everyone. They want y'all.
Thank you so much, Hadeja, for your thorough explanation. You went into so much detail and you broke down, and you're so willing to assist our students here. I have to big you up. I have to big you up. They never had to be here, ladies and gentlemen, but they chose to be here. So I have to thank you so much for being here. And guys, I have to apologize for the background noise. Races are happening, and my family is watching. The next presenter. Before we go to the next presenter, I just want to share two things that Chelsea didn't get to share. Young and Thriving, which is her business that she started with her best friend, is launching a scholarship for Jamaican students. It's in US dollars, and so follow her page, Chelsea K. Right, and she also mentioned to me that the program that she got into for catering is not AIM Online Academy that we're having here in Jamaica, but a different AIM that catering specifically has. So I'm dropping that link here so you can go on that. Up next is Chad. Chad is a student who studies in Cuba. Chad is a fifth-year medical student at the University of Medicine in Cuba, Universidad de he'll pronounce that for you, ladies and gentlemen. He is a resident of Portmore, and Chad knows what it is. He knows what it feels like to desire to study overseas. He has a passion for community service and human development. He has a host of different sessions for Spanish classes, so he's fluent in Spanish. And if you want to get that, Espanol down, then you can link him up. And also, he volunteers to teach it at his church. He's currently a Cuban scholar, and Chad is a proud ambassador of the All About Scholarships initiative that has put on this very event. So he'll be helping you today. Over to you, Chad.
What's up?
We're all good, Chad. How are you?
All right, just a moment here. All right, cool. It's blurred. All right, so the first question is that y'all might want to know is why did I choose to study in Cuba? Well, I decided to study in Cuba because upon applying to UWI, I got through to UWI, but I did not get a full scholarship. No, I did not receive a scholarship, and I'm from a very poor background. So with that being said, I started working at a call center for a year, and then I heard about Cuba. So I was just like, oh, that sounds very cool. So I was just like, okay, let me apply for Cuba. Upon applying for Cuba, I got through. I didn't know how, but I got through with the scholarship. And seeing I couldn't afford the education in Jamaica, I decided to, take the scholarship and go to Cuba. It's very close to home, which is convenient for me because I love coming to Jamaica. I love being around my family, and I'm a foodie. So, I love the Jamaican food. Compared to what is in Cuba, the Jamaican food is way better. So that was one of the main reasons why I decided to study in Cuba. The application process to study in Cuba, it's not hard, but it's not easy. So if you, for example, if you got a scholarship, it's very easy. All you have to do is prove that you have a good police record, you don't have any illness. Like they do take into consideration ST and STDs. If you have those, they're very not kind of discriminative, but they won't accept you in the country if you have say for example HIV or AIDS. You can't enter their country with that, but persons they are living with it. So apart from that, let me see. You need 2 guarantors to prove that, all right, cool, this is if you have a scholarship, if you get a scholarship. So you need 2 persons as a guarantor to co-sign for you to go to Cuba to get a scholarship. If not, if you're using a process called CUBA Heal, then you have to pay all your fees. I think that's around $10,000 per year. And also you have to cover your own insurance. Everybody following so far? Oh, 13,000. Well, I did not know that part. Okay. The immigration process is very easy, like easy. Once you get through the scholarship or through the Cuba Heal process, then you just get a ticket for Cuba, and you can either get. Go ahead. Proceed. Okay. So the immigration process very easy. Once you say get the scholarship or whatever, you just go to the Cuban embassy or the airport and buy a visa. That visa will allow you to be in Cuba for like maybe a month. And after that, they'll give you an ID, a Cuban ID, and that will allow you to go through the country. For scholarship students, that ID will give you like free braces. But if not, you have to pay for your own braces. So a part of being a scholarship student, all medicals are free. So if you want braces, you want to do any kind of surgery, whatever, that's completely free as long as you show that you have a need for like the braces or whatever surgery that you want. What else? So when you reach in Cuba and you get that, the student ID, it's like basically gives you all the right as a Cuban. So you have all the rights of a Cuban. So you can use a card to buy stuff, go to the bus station and buy a ticket like a normal Cuban, etc., etc. At the moment, I currently do some classes because I'm a person like this, even though I'm getting a stipend. I live outside of the school, so I need extra money for my expenses because I'm not a person that likes being around persons in a baker. A baker is like in English, that's like the room where everybody stays. So there's a lot of Africans, and I'm not the kind of person that will I'm not the kind of person that will be around a lot of persons all the time. I like being to myself and away from persons. So I decided to rent out. So to finance that, I have classes with persons from time to time where I do Spanish, sometimes free, sometimes I take some money, sometimes they decide to give me money or something like that. So I finance my room by, doing some classes. In Cuba, sadly, you can't work because the works in Cuba, they really don't pay. So for example, and don't quote me on this, a doctor receive like 100 US per month, and Cuba is super expensive. Like before the COVID and stuff, it wasn't so expensive, but before that, I think they was getting 50 US, but now they raise it to 100 US, and 100 US is like nothing. That's like 2,500 pesos. And my rent for the month is 3,000 pesos. So you realize that their salary cannot even pay for my rent. What else is on the agenda? All right, so in Cuba, everybody is like, they always talk about Jamaica. Like once they be like, oh, you're Jamaican, I'm about to say that. All right, once they know you're Jamaican, they'll start talking to you about, oh, Bob Marley, and they'll try to say, you have any Bob Marley songs? Or Usain Bolt, or they'll be like, oh, I went to Jamaica, I went to Ocho Rios, or I went to Constant Spring, and they'll be like, oh, I know this part in Jamaica or that part in Jamaica. But they're very fond of Jamaica, and like, it's not really easy for a Cuban to come to Jamaica because they don't get like passport and stuff like that very easy. But they love Jamaicans, and most Cubans, they are very friendly. Like, even though they can't afford stuff, they'll cook and they'll be like, oh, hey, Chad, you want some food or something like that? Not to make them feel bad, you take the food and just, just take it because, I should say something in Spanish. All right, so they can't really afford stuff, but they will actually offer you stuff like, oh, I just bought something over there, and they'll try to give you some. And if, for example, at a party, like so, for example, this bottle, you might not be seeing this good, but like if I'm at a party and like a Cuban is there and he buys this bottle of rum or something, all five of us is gonna drink from the same bottle because they're very friendly in that kind of manner. Some of the Cubans are very racist, like them very, very racist, and like they will call you negra de raza de mono, which is like a black monkey. And like sometimes, I'm a person that is I won't take their crap. So I'm gonna be like, are you talking to me? But otherwise, Cubans are very nice. And it's a very loving country and they're very poor. And honestly, I appreciate like the scholarship, the Cuban scholarship, even though it's not the best. Cuba is not the best, but even though it's been said that Cuba is one of the best places in the for the medical field, they are lacking in a lot of ways. For example, they don't have a lot of medications. Like if you go to a hospital now to do a surgery and need some pain medicine, you might have to buy that from the black market because the pharmacies does not, they don't have a lot of medications now. So persons travel outside the country, come back with a ton of medication and they'll sell it to you for like a higher fee. And crime rate in Cuba, there's little to no crime in Cuba, but there are one and two robberies like here and there. But Cuba, anytime of the night, I can be on my phone, walking on the road, like nobody not going to trouble me or try to rob me. And it's pretty peaceful there. In addition to that, fun fact, in 2019, December, I think I was in Jamaica that time, if I'm not wrong. Yes, I was at home. And that was the first time that Cuba launched its mobile data. So before that, Cuba, you'd have to go to a Wi-Fi park and you'd have to pay, I think, $1.25 per hour to use the internet. So you'd have to be seated at a Wi-Fi park because there's no mobile data. So that was something that really shocked me there. And I was just like, whoa. When I just arrived in Cuba, I was at the airport and I was just there and I saw this free Wi-Fi stuff and I was like, oh, let me connect to the Wi-Fi. To my surprise, like there was no Wi-Fi, there was nothing. So apart from the Wi-Fi being a shock, the food, honestly, Cubans can't cook. Like I honestly can say this, I do not eat Cuban food. So when I'm going back to Cuba, if I have 3 suitcases, 2.5 of the suitcases food. So that's that. So I don't eat the Cuban food. Like that is not me. I'm not a person that will go to a restaurant and go eat some food. I will do that like once in a while, but it's not often. If you see me, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, Chad, you're cooking today. Yo, I want some food, or Chad, we're coming over to have some dinner or something because I'm going to cook. Anybody have any questions? And I'll answer them at the moment. That's my question. All right, so with Cuba now, what is the name of the scholarship you got? I think it's basically a Cuban bilateral scholarship, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's the bilateral one, if I'm even pronouncing that one. All right, so the name of the university I'm studying, I think the girl didn't get that right, but it's actually Universidad de Ciencias Médicas in Camagüey, Cuba. Can person study other things? All right, so in Cuba, there are other scholarships that you might not know about. All right, the requirements, I'm going to talk about that. So you can study engineering. They have a good engineering program. But otherwise from that, it's mostly like medical stuff. So you can study medicine, nursing, radiology, anything in the medical field, you can study that in Cuba. But those are the main stuff that they have offered. All right, the requirements. All right, so so for the scholarship, you might need a lot of ones and twos. You can look like me and have like a 1-3 and maybe get through. I don't know how, but I got through. And that's it for the scholarship. But for the CUBA Hill, honestly, you don't even need nothing. Once you have your money, you can prove so you can do your thing, pay for your tuition and stuff. You can just go. Once you can pay for your education in Cuba, you can just go. CAPE is mandatory for the scholarship, but for the CUBA Hill, I think you can go with 6. You don't need CAPE. You just pay for your thing, and they'll be like, all right, them accept you because Cuba will want the money, so they will accept you. You just have to go Cuba and do your best. Is there any other agency? At the moment, I don't know of any other agency than CUBA Hill. CUBA Hill is I won't bash them, but I don't know if they're the best. But I've heard persons say that they don't really like it or they're not fond of it. But apart from that, if you're a half Cuban and you can prove that you're a half Cuban, then you can get a scholarship free of cost. So show that you have some Cuban background and you can get a scholarship easy, 1, 2, 3. All right, so dentistry. Cuba does offer dentistry scholarship as well, you know. So if you're a person that is passionate about that, then I think you can apply through whatever agency that's available and you can get through with that process. All right, so somebody just sent me a message say I should speak something in Spanish, but what would you want to hear me say in Spanish? Just send it to me in the chat and I'll just translate it. And it's actually pretty fun being bilingual. Pronounce your school name. All right, so it's Universidad de Ciencias Médicas in Camagüey, Cuba, which is actually University of Medical Sciences in Camagüey, Cuba. And I'm not saying Cuban food is not the best, it's just that not everyone is a chef. So the food, Cuban cuisine is not the best, to be honest. Like, it's not the best. So with Cuba, the first year, you're gonna learn Spanish. So when you enter the country, as soon as you enter Cuba, they'll give you a year of Spanish. I'm gonna get to that soon. So once you enter Cuba, the first year is actually about learning Spanish. So you have a whole year of learning everything in Spanish, from biology, chemistry, physics, maths, whatever, they'll teach you that in Spanish. And then the first year, which is first, you have pre-med, and then you have med school, which is just like med school. You have to know everything. You have to know your Spanish because the teachers can be very, not really biased or anything like that, but if you don't understand anything in Spanish, you're going to be like, it's not their fault or problem. You need to learn the language. But because most times, yes, they teach in Spanish. All your classes will be in Spanish. And once they're teaching you in Spanish, you have to respond to questions because they have something called seminario, which they will give you like from page 5 to 40 to study, and they'll just pick on you to answer one question. If you don't know that, then you know your ass is grass, as my friend from Grenada would say. What is the tenure of studying? All right, so studying medicine in Cuba is basically 5 to 6 years, depending on the country that you're from. If you're from a Caribbean country, it's 6 years, but if you're from like South Africa or some other countries, like 5 years would be your last year, which is your internship in your own country. If someone is struggling with learning Spanish, what do you advise them? For me, if you're struggling with Spanish and you're in a Spanish country, I would say talk to people, which I did for the very first year. I was very, what's the English word I'm looking for? I was a bit friendly, so I spoke to a lot of persons, and I communicated with them, and like whatever I was missing or what I did not know, they would be like, "Oh no, that's not how you say it," and they would help me with my Spanish. So for the first year, I was very, active around. So I would play football with the Cubans. I would go to parties. I would drink with them, and maybe don't do this at home, kids, but maybe I want smoke, but I don't like smoking. But just to hang around them, I would just interact with them, and they'll teach you certain stuff. So you'd learn the language more when you communicate with a Spanish speaker, because you won't learn everything in a class if you don't have like somebody constantly practicing with you. So when you're there and you're speaking, the more you speak, the more you learn, because they'll correct you. Even though it's still in the Caribbean, did it feel like a new place? Yeah, Cuba is like a different world. Honestly, Cuba is a different world. Honestly, they're very, let me not say this in a bad way, but they are backabush. They're not the best. Where do I do my internship? I'm starting my internship this year when I go back to Cuba in September. And I do offer Spanish classes. If anyone needs Spanish classes, I'm always here. But what else can I talk about Cuba? But if you're coming to Cuba, just know that Cuba have a food crisis, and they don't have internet. At the moment, they have light. Wait, what's the term? They take the light, so they ration everything that they do. So they ration on the food and stuff like that. But Cuba, I would definitely suggest that somebody study in Cuba, because it's close to home, it's not very expensive, and the education is actually top tier. So despite them having their different challenges, they will always teach you, and the teachers will it's not like in UA where the teacher won't run behind your back. In Cuba, if you miss a class, teacher be like, Chad, ¿qué pasó? Or like, what's going on? What happened to you? Why did you miss the class? And if you don't understand stuff, they'll take the hours and sit back, and they'll go through the stuff with you. Like, these are my teachers, though. Like, my teachers, they are the best. So like, if you don't understand something, they'll allow everybody to leave and say, oh, tomorrow at 3, come to my house or stay at the library, and they'll go through stuff, because the kind of environment that they what's the word I'm looking for? My English is not so good because of the Spanish, but the kind of environment that they have is it's conducive to learning. And can we get information for the classes? Let me see. My Spanish Spanish page is actually Professor Clark. I can leave my information here. Let's see. What would you say is your best experience in Cuba despite the negatives? So my best experience in Cuba, honestly, I'm not the kind of person to go, so I really don't have a good experience nor a bad experience, because for one, I've been only I only faced racism once, and otherwise from that, it's cool. There's nothing to say bad about Cuba. I don't have any best things. Why should I say that in Spanish? All right, so if you want information from me, I think Delmar can send it over to you. I really don't have my pages here, but let me send this to everyone. My Instagram page, Spanish page.
All right.
Good night, Chad. Are you hearing us? Hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah, a question.
Yeah.
So someone sent a question. They were unable to join back. I'm not sure why. Their question was, I want to go to Cuba, right? But can you tell me a little bit more about the embassy thing? Do I have to go to an interview, and is like a lot of process with regards to it? Do I need a lot of papers, my finance background, etc.?
No, all right. So for the scholarship, you don't need anything more than a guarantor. But for the Cuba Heal, once you can show them a statement that I can pay for my stuff, they'll accept you whether or not you have good grades or bad grades. They don't care. So the paperwork is very, very easy. There's nothing tedious about the process. And you have to pay for your own health insurance. So once you can prove payment, like you have money and stuff like that, you're good to go. Even if you can show that you can pay for 1 year, you're good to go. Because Cuba will accept you.
Okay, and another question from another person. I'm getting a lot of medical questions, you know. So as someone said, I'm currently studying medicine in Jamaica on a self-financing program, which means that I pay $4.2 million. Jamaica is very expensive, guys. Now, can I transfer my credits to continue studying in Cuba where it's much cheaper, or do I have to start over the entire process?
Well, sadly, you have to start over the entire process because Cuba medical program is way different from Jamaica to some extent, and I cannot transfer my grades from Cuba to Jamaica, nor can somebody transfer their credit from Jamaica to Cuba. That's not a given. However, if you finish med school and you want to do like your specialty, then you could go to Cuba. But the transferring of credit when you're like first year, second year, that does not apply.
Okay, glad that you mentioned the part about specialty. Suppose I want to specialize in cardiothoracic surgery. How extensive is Cuban specialization process compared to Jamaica's?
I think it's the same amount of money. Not the same amount. I think it's the same amount of money as the regular process because the specialty and the normal doctorate program is, I think, it's the same amount of money. So if someone says 13,500 US, I think that's the same. It's not more expensive.
And to complete, suppose I want to work in Cuba just for a short time to gain experience and also to, what would I say, learn the vocabulary and to become bilingual. Now, there is always this saying that, everybody in Cuba makes the same money. Now, do you think person should go to Cuba to, get their second language and work there, given that everybody makes the same money? It's a communist country.
So you can't work in Cuba. Now, as I stated before, you can't work in Cuba. It's not a given. When you're doing your internship, they will pay you the same amount of money as they'll pay me the same amount of money as the regular person. But that's just it. I can't say go work wherever I want to work. So you from Jamaica can't decide to come Cuba and work because that won't happen.
So in Cuba, just to confirm, everybody makes the same money.
No. All right. So for example, a doctor would make 100 US. A teacher might make 60 or 70 or maybe 50. A garbage collector might get 30 US dollars. The process it varies. It doesn't. The highest paid profession, I think, would be somebody that deals with like maybe high-end surgery, or somebody that deals with radiation, like what's the term I'm looking for? Like a
radiographer?
No, not a radiographer. Somebody higher than that, like nuclear medicine.
Oh yes.
Anesthesiologists.
Yeah, those persons would make the most money there.
All right, guys, if anybody's in the chat, my name is Delmar Square. Just to reiterate that if you can do the state, I'm also a co-founder here at All About Scholarship. I see a lot of medical students here. Guys, you're waiting on your acceptance from UA. UA still haven't sent them yet, because when I was just applying to UA, even though I am on full scholarship there, I got my acceptance letter late. And you can go to Cuba, you can study there. Chad is a living prophecy of that. Even though, guys, every day he texts me and call me and said, Delmar, I want to come home. And when he's home, he always want now we forgot. But guys, ask the questions, get your answers now, learn how to get to Cuba, how to go there. Compared to US and Canada and China, which we'll be having soon, the process is easier. Cuba wants us, they want your money, even though the food, as chat says, it's not that good, and you have to learn a language which can be hard for some of us. Whenever you used to like C6 Spanish, imagine having to learn Spanish to save a life. So guys, ask the questions now, get them out, because that's what All About Scholarship is here for. That's the reason we started this, to get you guys to get the help from persons all around the world. So guys, if you're afraid to send them in the chat, you can send them to me. Chad, I see a question come in. Chad, the question is, as a medical student, is it too late now for me to actually think about the CUBA pathway?
No, it's not. If you can pay your way through school, then it's much cheaper than Jamaica. If you don't even have the grades, you can go to Cuba.
Wait, you said if somebody don't have the grade, they can go to Cuba?
Yeah, if you don't have the grades, you can pay your way to the school.
Okay, I understand. So Chad,
and that's through Cuba here.
okay, awesome. So Chad, that seems to be all that we have for you today. So guys, remember, Chad has his Spanish classes. Guys, trust me, I'm a living, I know some things in Spanish. Bienvenido. Michael, that's welcome to Jamaica. So Chad taught me that. He's my friend, guys. So I would say go to his Spanish classes. They are very cheap. He basically, it's not a class where you just go for 1 hour and you finish the 1 hour. You have his number. You can call him during the day. He'll help you prepare you for your exam, stay up with you, annoy you with Spanish, everything, and be a friend at that too, guys. So go to his Spanish class, get his assistance. It's cheap compared to the classes out here, which you have to pay a lot of money. You pay one little small fee with him, which help him on his journey and also help you to learn a language. So guys, remember, it's Professor Clark. I'll send it in our WhatsApp groups to get everybody else. I'll blast it on our Instagram page or Twitter and also our Facebook. Also, guys, remember, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, because we will be sending scholarship updates there. Overseas, you want to go to Cuba, China, Hong Kong, anywhere in the world, Russia, even though Russia is not place, we have you guys on lock. Now, Kenisha, I'm going to pass over to you, because we have the final speaker of the day. He's in China, guys, so you may not get a live performance from him, a live conversation, but you guys will get something from Rumi. So Kenisha, you can introduce Rumi.
Yes, and once again, he is our last presenter for the night. If you have any other questions for Chad, then he will definitely drop his socials down there. So Romy Donaldson was born in Jamaica, of course, Mount Salem, Montego Bay. And until his departure from Jamaica, he lived in Farm Heights. Romy attended 5 different high schools prior, and he had difficulties learning and grasping information. Nevertheless, he ultimately matriculated to the Cornell College, and he describes his time there as life-changing, as it taught him to be tenacious, positive, and goal-oriented. He was always willing to give himself of school to the school community, and ultimately became one of the deputy head boys and organizer and coach of the school's swim team. Currently, he matriculated to Anhui Medical University in Hefei, China. He will pronounce it better, guys. I am an English speaker, and to pursue a Bachelors of Medicine and Surgery. At the start of the pandemic, Romy returned to his roots of writing and published a book called Affluence at 20 years old, and later, his most recent book that was launched is called Life. Romy has recently completed his 3rd year of medical school and will continue his 4th year in August 2022. He looks forward to graduation in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker, Mr. Romy Donaldson.
For inviting me to come and present Hi everyone. So firstly, I'd like to thank Kenisha and her team for inviting me to come and present or speak to you guys today on what it is to be an international student living in China and what it took for me to get here and life out of China as well. So my name is medical student at Medical University in China, and I will be starting with their August. And that's something that's been for me to be but nevertheless, I'm here today. So
All right, guys. So apologies for that. We noticed that the audio is a bit low. We're trying to get it fixed. So just begging you guys 2 minutes to get that started. Oh.
So firstly, I'd like to thank Kenisha and her team for inviting me to come and present or speak to you guys today on what it is to be an international student living in China and what it took for me to get here and life after China as well. So my name is Romy Donaldson. I am a medical student at Anhui Medical University in Hefei, China, and I will be starting my 4th year of medical school in August. And that's something that's even difficult for me to fathom. But nevertheless, I'm here today to give you guys a rundown of what it took for me to get here, for me to get to this stage, and I'm super excited to be able to share this information with you guys. If you see me glance out of frame, I'm just looking at my computer screen. I've tried to write down my responses so I could be as detailed as possible and hopefully not leave out any information in this presentation. So our first question is why I chose to study here in China. I chose my university primarily because of the cost. It was cheaper to study here in comparison to our own country, Jamaica, and other countries like the USA and Canada, and also because of the time frame. So the time frame to study here is the same as in Jamaica, 5 years for your university program, and then 1 year of internship. If I were to go the USA route, I would have had to do 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of medical school. So I opted to do the 6 years overall with school and then internship. And also because I am a business owner, I operate a online clothing store on Instagram. And so I thought that by coming here, I would have been able to make connections with people that could hopefully impact my business and impact my brand. So I thought, why not? The world is large, it is yours for the taking. You can go to China, get your degree, have new experiences, have some fun, engage yourself in a new culture, and it should be a win-win for you. So that's why I chose to come here to study. So question number 2, how difficult is the university application process? For me, it wasn't very difficult. I applied through the website chinauniversitystudy.com, and I will put that website here in the presentation. So when you go on that website, you can choose the option to study MBBS in China. From there, you can choose whether you want to study at Wenzhou Medical University or Anhui Medical University, and then you can apply for both of these universities. On the portal, you can submit all the requisite information, so your CSEC and CAPE grades, any requisite documents like proof of your high school graduation, proof of your results, so on and so forth. Everything can be submitted on this platform, and then you would usually apply within the application period. When you go on the website, it will tell you when the requisite schools have their different application periods. When I was applying for Anhui, this was about October, November, but now they've changed it to about March, April. So when the time comes for you to apply, you can always go on the website and just to double check when it is that these schools have their application period. So you wait about a month and a half to get your response, as I said. For some people, it may take a longer time based on when they apply. So some people may apply at a later time, and so they'll get their response at a later time. For the application itself, there's no application fee. However, if it is that you get accepted to either of the universities and you would like to actually go to these universities, then you have to pay a fee to hold your space and for them to process your documents. When I had done my application in 2019, I paid about 12,000 JMD for this. So for them to hold the space and for them to send the requisite documents to me in Jamaica. So the next question says, how was the immigration process to come here? So the immigration process was fairly simple, and it's one of the most comfortable experiences I've had at an embassy, I would say, as compared to maybe the US embassies or other embassies. So we waited for a while to get our JW202 study form, and that's the document that you would use to basically register for your X visa. Your X visa is a single entry visa, and it is valid for 30 days after you land in China. So waited for a while to get this document. I got mine in August, and as I said, I had already been accepted from December of the previous year. So after I got this document, I went online to see what the office hours were for the embassy in Kingston. When I checked in preparation for this presentation, it says Wednesdays from 2:30 to 4:30. However, when I was applying, they had more days and they had a morning and an afternoon session, afternoon working hours as well. So when that time comes for you, you can go on the website and you can check to see what exactly applies to you. So I got the form, and the next day I was on a bus to Kingston. When I got to the embassy, we joined the line, regular process. So how their interview process works is that it's only you and the interviewer in the room. They ask you a set of questions. So some people may differ, but for the most part, it's the same questions. So they ask you why you chose to study in China, what are your plans while you are studying there, and what do you plan to do after you return home. You're also required to write down these responses on a sheet of paper. And then the interview is basically over. They tell you not to write too much or not to do too much, just to give simple responses. And usually, most people that do apply to study here usually do get in, or not just only get into their university. I don't want to speak for the schools, but usually most people will get the visa to actually come here and pursue their studies. It's usually suggested to applicants that they say when they finish their program that they wish to return home to build and develop their country. The interviewers love to hear that response. After my interview, I was told to wait to expect a call from them when everything was processed, when I could come and get the visa, if I got the visa. And I received this call in about a day and a half, and they told me that I could come and collect my documents. So a point to note is that the Chinese consulate, they don't ship your passport to you like other embassies do. So you actually have to go back to Kingston at their consulate office to collect your document and to pay for it there as well. Yes, so I mentioned above that you will get a X1 visa, which is valid for 30 days after you land in China. So the reason they do that is because after you come here, you have to do a health check, and then your school will arrange your documents for you to actually go to your bureau to apply for a residence permit. And that residence permit's validity is based on the stipulation that your school set. So it can be valid for 2 years, it can be valid for 1 year. When it expires, you have to go to the bureau again and you renew it. So that's where you get an X1 visa in Jamaica. And when you come here, then you sort out your residency permit. So the next question is funding. How do I fund my studies here? So my parents pay my tuition for me, and the tuition cost is 35,200 yuan for students who are in China and that live on campus. For students who live outside of China or who live off campus like myself, the tuition is 31,200 yuan. So accommodation fee is 4,000 yuan, and you only pay that if it is that you live on campus, right? So apart from that, there are a few scholarships that I know that students who study here have, and I'm just going to do a quick run through of them. So some students are recipients of the NCB Foundation scholarships. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but you can go on the NCB website and find this information. Some students are also recipients of the Hanover Charities Scholarship. I want to touch on the Anhui Province Scholarship that's given through the university, and this is valued at 20,000 yuan. So this scholarship is usually given at the end of each academic year and also in the first semester of your first year after your entrance examination. So 70% of this scholarship is based on your academic performance, ethic, and labor education. Your class counselor is also expected to give you an evaluation score. All these combined will give you a final score, and then you are ranked based on your score. So the number of scholarships that you are given each year are based on your class size, so it's dependent on how large of a class you are in, and also on the amount of money that's given to the school from the government. So a point to note for this scholarship is that receiving this scholarship and when you receive it is solely based on the school, as after they receive the money from the government, they have full control of how they want to conduct their scholarship evaluation process. The China Scholarship Council, or CSC scholarship, this scholarship is a bilateral scholarship, meaning that it is given under the premise of an agreement between the Chinese government and the Jamaican government. So under this scholarship, your tuition is paid in full and you also receive a monthly stipend. Upon completion of your program, you're required to return to your home country and are bound to work for a number of years. This is usually about 5 years, but it's based on the agreement, so it will vary. Students that have this scholarship that pursue undergraduate degrees that I know of, they've all studied in Chinese, so in Mandarin. So they study Chinese for a year and then they matriculate into their requisite programs. So for master's and doctoral students, however, I know students who study in English that have the CSC scholarship. So for more information on this scholarship, I'm going to put the name here in the video, and it is www.csc.edu.cn, and I'll put the name here as well, so you can go on the website and you can look up the requisite information as it applies or as it relates to you. So the next question is about students being able to work in China. So based on the law, students are not allowed to study and work in this province, Anhui province. However, I saw recently that the government had started to allow students to work for a few hours a week on campus or off campus based on if the school approves. However, I saw that article, but I haven't seen any more news articles about that, so I can't necessarily speak on it because I haven't seen any updates. But for now, that is where we stand as it relates to that. Alright, so the next question is life as a Jamaican in China for me. As I said, I live off campus, so I have to interact with Chinese people on a more frequent and intimate basis. I would say I moved off campus after my first year and I'm going into my fourth year. So usually the younger people just go about and do their own thing, and they're usually more friendly and welcoming. Not always, but they're usually more easy to deal with than the older or middle-aged people. And I would say that it's from the older people especially and the middle-aged people sometimes that I have experienced racism or xenophobia from. When I just came to China and going into my second year and in my second year of university, I was more affected by this, as a lot of times you do feel outnumbered. Oftentimes you find yourself being the only black person in a setting, so you may feel overwhelmed, sometimes embarrassed with some things that they may do and so on. However, I've learned to adjust and cope in a sense. Sometimes I'm still uncomfortable as they can be very invasive. Some people may want to touch your skin, may want to touch your hair. Last week I had a situation with an older gentleman who I was standing waiting on an elevator to go up to my apartment, and he left from where he was standing to come beside me to look into my phone to see what I was doing, and I got very upset because that's an invasion of privacy. His response was that he wanted to see if I was using Chinese or English to communicate. First of all, that's none of your business, sir. But I digress. So you do have those microaggressive situations on, sadly, a daily basis, but over time you get accustomed to it and you learn how to really, move around this. We're approaching the end. One thing I wish I knew in my application process or in my transition from Jamaica to China is not to shortchange myself. I chose my university, as I said earlier, primarily based on the price, and I can confidently say that I regret that decision because I don't feel like the teaching and the education that I'm receiving here is sufficient or at the level that it is supposed to be. I always try to be transparent about these things, so I have no issue giving you guys all the information that you will need to apply for schools in China. But for me, if I had known better, I would not have chosen this university in particular. I would have gone to somewhere more prestigious or renowned where I felt that my education was in better hands. So if you're thinking about my university, just know that you will be teaching yourself a lot, and this is quite overwhelming and tedious as well. So this question stuck out to me, and because I wanted to ensure that I was honest with you guys today and forthcoming with my responses. So transitioning from Jamaica to China can be a culture shock, as it isn't as warm and friendly here or polite as we are back home in Jamaica, and the food is completely different. So that can be a big shock. But over time, I feel that these are things that you will be accustomed to, especially if you're here for a longer duration for medicine, for example, like 5-6 years. Overall, you get accustomed to it. What I like about China is that it's very safe. You can go on the road at any time and not have to worry about being robbed or being in danger. So this is also a plus. Also, it's cheap and not difficult to get things done. I was able to publish 2 books within the span of a year, just based on savings from the money that my parents would have given me every month and so on. If I was in Jamaica, I knew that this is something that would have been more expensive. So these are some pros about coming to China and living here. So this was my brief but hopefully informative presentation on how to apply to study in China and live in China here as a student. I wish you guys all the very best in your application processes. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email through romidonaldson@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at romy.leon, and I will put it here in the presentation. I do hope that you guys enjoy the rest of this presentation. I hope that you have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, and I wish you all the very best. So maybe I'll see you soon. If not, we can communicate online, and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Those are words from Romy Donaldson. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our presentation, the entire event has come to an end. We want to thank you so much for those of you who stayed all the way from the beginning till now. We are on the cusp of
Okay, guys, so it seems as if Kenisha is having some technical issues. But have you, as you guys have all seen, we went through quite a few persons. We started with, if I'm not getting it wrong, we started with USA, where she expounded on how it was difficult for her with just the interview, having to scramble around to find, the finances to show that you can actually pay in order to get that interview at the embassy, the consulate pass. Because trust me, guys, US visas is very hard to get, even as students. Even though if you go on the embassy now, you see that you have a waiting time for students 8 days compared to visitors where you have to wait until 2024. So she expounded on that, and we're really grateful for that. Then we got an understanding of what it was to study in Canada. Canada, as you know, is a very different country. It's cold because it's extremely north. She went to St. Thomas University, and she expounded on how it was for her there. Also, we then had Chad, who's studying, is currently going into his final year at CUBA. Explain on how easy it is to get into CUBA. As long as you have your money talk. Even in Jamaica, getting into medicine, your money talk as opposed to your grades sometimes. And then our final speaker was from China, Leon. He spoke about how it was for him matriculating to China and basically the entire process there is. Now, guys, if you guys need any additional, what would I say, assistance from them and you forgot their information, don't worry, All About Scholarship will assist you guys to get to those information. So you can always shoot us an email at allaboutscholarships@gmail.com. If you don't want to send that to that email, you can send it to Kanisha or I. It's basically your first, that last name. So it would be delmar.squire@allaboutscholarships.ja.org or kenisha.henry@allaboutscholarships.ja.org, and we'll definitely respond to your email. You can send us the messages via our WhatsApp group, or if you see our numbers in our WhatsApp group as admin, you can shoot us a direct message and we'll respond there. Also on our Instagram pages. Don't forget, guys, to always go ahead and tell your friends, your family members, your schoolmates to like, follow, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page, our Instagram page, or Facebook, and also follow us on Twitter because we'll give you guys the latest scholarship updates. Because we know a lot of persons going into university and matriculating into their final year of high school, and we were spending 2 years face to face, online. Sorry, I know you're going back face to face, and it can be a different situation for some persons, especially, just going back to university face to face. So, guys, you need assistance because, as I always tell persons, nothing is more sad than being a broke university student, having to run up and down. It's some of your friends that aren't going to university, going to the parties, and you are just strict for time and need to find the money. So, guys, we're at the end of the presentation. We thank you guys so much for joining, for asking your questions. We'll have